Welcome to part 2 of the Tudor miniature build. Based on low view count of part 1, it's exactly as boring as I hoped it would be. So same disclaimer as last time for those who are new to the party. This is how to build and construct a Tudor miniature. If that's not your bag, this is going to bore you till your eyeballs melt out of your skull. Well, we got the framing done, the structure built, so now I'm going to show you how to clean that up and get ready to create the negative space where the plaster and all that went. As I wanted to closely replicate a authentic Tudor miniature, the outsides of a lot of the timber frames, they're not perfect. They have little scars on them, little edges taken off. So I went and took this little tiny blade here and I rounded the sides in some places, put little pits in the wood, put little lines in the wood. Some Tudors have very ornamental front edges, but I didn't do all that. Again, I just try to keep it as natural as possible. Before I build out the inside or anything like that, I've ran a palm sander over it. You don't have to use a palm sander. You can sand it by hand. I found it easier to sand and do this stuff at this stage while it was still wide open. On a traditional Tudor, you have kind of a plaster and lath situation. That means there's some little small boards and they filled up with plaster. I, however, use some thin pieces of pine. I marked them from the inside, just traced them so I can cut them as perfectly as possible, and just placed them in and held them in with glue. I used a couple screws. An air nailer would have been perfect for this job, but I didn't feel like hauling it from upstairs. I repeated this process on all the spaces that wouldn't be a door or a window. I tried to keep the pieces as tight as possible because I'm going to have the beams on the inside stained and exposed. I repeated the process of the inside of putting little scars and fake little lines on the wood just to give a little bit more authenticity. I wanted the white pine filler panels to be as tight to the timbers as possible, so I used a little bit of pine wood filler and filled all the gaps up, let it dry, and then sanded the inside. To follow the lines of a traditional Tudor, I wanted the inside beams to be stained and the outside to be black. So I masked off all the windows and then gave it the old business there. Just a light dusting, because I was going to touch it up again about 15,000 times in between the other parts of the process. I'm going with a matte black, not a gloss or a satin. Well, I let that business dry overnight, and then I used there's multiple different things you could use for this. I was initially going to use joint compound, but I went with a fiber reinforced big gap filler. The small fibers would give the illusion of horsehair, which is in traditional plaster. That was used as kind of an aggregate to hold the plaster together. It wasn't uncommon in the United States either to use hog or horsehair in masonry applications. After it dried, I chose to use a matte water-based polyurethane in order to seal it. You can paint this a matte white if you wish. I like the color of the filler already, but the polyurethane ensures that it doesn't yellow over time and makes it easier to clean if people get little fingerprints or whatnot on it. You can go either way on this one. Well, that, folks, is how I created the aesthetic of the outside of the Tudor building. The brickwork will be a video all by itself because there's a lot to cover there. For those of you who are into this, if you have any questions about any part of this process, be sure to post them below. I hope you enjoyed it, and those that are not into it and found this very boring, I warned you from the beginning, so you really only have yourself to blame. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.